Hello, I am Gila Gonzalez, and I'm a community member here in Carrollton, Georgia. And I decided that I wanted to um, introduce you to different angels in our community. And one of those angels is Amanda Carden. She is a family advocate, a forensic interviewer at Carroll County Child Advocacy Center. She's a voice of justice, guidance, spirituality, but most of all, love. And um, she's more than these words, but she is a woman of action. And I love to speak with her. So let me introduce you to Amanda Carden. Hello, Amanda.
Hello, Gila. Thank you so much for setting up this time for us to talk. I could say so many of those things about you. You have me blushing, but I treasure this opportunity to chat with you today. I do.
No, thank you, because from the moment I met you, you have always inspired me. And whenever I see you walking into a room, the entire and people say this about many people in our community, but I literally see the light when you enter the room. So thank you, thank you,
Oh,
thank you.
thank you.
Um, in our community, we are blessed, but there are some things that we need to work on. But talking about something that has happened in the inner neck of the woods, what happened in South Georgia, what is happening all across the nation, and something that I want you to tell me from your perspective. How do you see this situation? How we can become those people that help instead of deter what God wants us to do on this earth?
Ooh, that is a powerful question. I think you spoke a moment, just a moment ago, about love. My goodness, I always tell people I don't have a naive bone in my body. I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot of things. I don't live in naivety at all. But love, my goodness, it is powerful. And with love comes listening. There's an author that I'm a big fan of. His name is David Joy, who often says when people are hurting, when people are being treated unjust, one of the most powerful things we can do is just hold our hands just like this and let them empty themselves into our hands. Empty, pour out, not with a filter, not with our filter, but to allow themselves to pour themselves, the hurt, the anger, the fear, pour it into our hands. And we don't stop there. When you pour into my hands, I have to do something. What do I do now? I've shut my mouth, which if you know me is hard for me to do, but to pour yourself into my hands and to hear you, to hear you. And now what am I going to do? How can I help you? How can I help make this right? If I haven't heard you, if I haven't closed my mouth long enough to hear you, empathy, goodness, you'll get me on my soapbox, but empathy, my gosh, empathy. One of my dearest friends has two beautiful African-American sons. And I texted her last night and I just wanted to know where they were. I wanted to know where they were, not just for them, but for her. Because as a mom, as a woman, as a believer, I can't completely imagine her fear. But I needed her to know that I heard her. And how do we make this better? And so I think when I see all of this going on and when I see the various things going on in cities right now that is drawing so much attention, we have to step back and we have to listen. What brought us here? No one wakes up on a Saturday morning and says, do you know what? I'm going to go in and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to a Target in Minneapolis. You know what? I am going 2 weeks from now. I'm going to plan to go do this at this store down. What's brought us here? There's an antecedent. There's a stimulus to every response. And if we want to learn, we have to listen. We have to stop with our filter, but then we've got to do more than listen. We've got to act. And I see it, from a personal perspective, Ahmaud in South Georgia. Gosh, I saw I saw faces that I knew. I saw the children of my friends. And how does that not gut me? If I, as a believer personally, if I serve and I love the Lord as I say I do, how does that not hurt me? How does that not bring me pain? If I love Him and all of His children the way that I say that I do, how does that not hurt my heart? You know, my hope. I was just having this conversation with some coworkers and friends, and this is just being really raw and transparent. When Ahmaud was killed in Glenn County, when that came to light, when, 2 months later, when everything came to focus, the whole country ran with Maud. We saw it. It was the hashtag. I run with Maud. And people ran hard with him for about 72 hours. And then there was a rest. And everybody took a break from running. Everybody took a break. Everybody took a break. So what are we doing? What are we doing? How are we answering? I've seen beautiful words of Dr. King shared for the last 3 days. Beautiful words, powerful words. And maybe I don't mean this to sound critical. I never knew he had so many followers, because we're sharing those words now, but we haven't listened. And I say that to myself. I say that to myself. I want to fix. I want to do things. How many times do I just open my hands and let you pour themselves into them? When I want to know the fear of a young Black male, how many times do I say, pour yourself into my hands and tell me? How many times do I step outside of myself and do that? When I say those things, I speak to myself. I ran really hard with Maud. I ran really hard. But am I still running? Miss Gila, did I sit down and now I put my shoes back on now that Mr. Floyd has been killed? Did I put my shoes back on then? Why didn't I leave them on the whole time? I say I did, but did I? And those conviction and those pieces. So it's upset me on so many levels, and it scares me as well, because I love love, I love peace, I love harmony, but those things just don't naturally happen, when we don't value each other. How can I think you love me if you don't value me, if you don't hear me? You can tell me that all the time, so I think, I don't even know if I answered your question. I just started getting on my soapbox and rambling, but I'm feeling convicted myself. I think that might be, I'm feeling convicted myself, I am.
I think that all of us have that feeling. I hope so, because it actually calls us to analyze, what am I doing to get my surroundings in a better circumstances. Yes. How am I treating my brother? How am I treating my neighbor? How am I treating the children of the people that I do not know?
Yes, and do I present myself in a way that makes you feel safe to call me out if I'm not? If I'm not treating you in a way that makes you feel valued for all that you are, all that you believe, and all that you stand for, and who you are at your basic core. If I'm doing something, because my gosh, perception is reality, whether it's intentional or not, am I creating myself as a person that you feel safe to say that to me? To say, hey, Amanda, I don't know if it was your intention or not, but this is what you said. This is how I felt. Do you feel safe to do that? And know that I will still love you just as much tomorrow as I do in this moment. And do I, as a person, give that off? And those are, gosh, that's something I evaluate of myself all the time. Sometimes I do a lot better with it than others, but am I doing that? I would never want to hurt anyone's feelings, but do I make it safe for them to tell me if I do? Or do I, as maybe as a white female who does share that passion for justice and love, do I ever stand in the way of refining myself, of growing myself? I haven't reached a plateau of that. I haven't reached the crescendo of that. Am I leaving myself open for growth? Do I practice what I preach? This is a big time of reflection, for myself.
In our community, I have lived in this town for over 30 years, and this is home. How do we get better? how are we? I know that we've been talking about love and all the things that we need to do, but what is a platform that we as a community, entire community, can become not only better, but showcase the strengths that is in our community? I came to live to Carrollton 30 years ago, and I felt welcome. I
Mhm.
remember it was a different time, but we're still the same community. What has happened to us um, in the past 10, 15 years um, that has deterred us from that community that I found 30 years ago?
I don't know. I don't know what has. I don't know what has occurred. I've been blessed in my life to work with kids. Whether it was as an educator in a classroom or at administrative level, and now working at the advocacy center, surrounding myself with children. And children are, I always say, if there was ever an example of God's pure light, it was children. Oh, they are magic, and who they become is what we mold them to be. Yes, choice comes in at moments and times, but their basic core principles are us, not just as parents, but as a community, as a church, as a country. It is us. And what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we showing our children? What are we teaching our kids? I mean, I say kids are always this magic piece because they're so malleable in good or bad. However we look at that, whether it's for good outcome or poor outcome, I don't know. I don't know the magic answer to that. I sure wish I did. I was having some conversation over the weekend with family, and we were talking about things. And as an prior, just in a traditional setting, I had a number of educator friends reach out to me about books. I'm always reading. One would think I would be far smarter than I am, but I'm always reading about different cultures and different people and different thoughts and different, to challenge myself. And I was compiling a list of all of these things to share. And I thought, there's not a magic book. There's not a magic place to learn about people. You learn about people from people. You learn about people from people. My friend, you were from Nicaragua. I can read an amazing book about Nicaragua. I can learn so much. I can have food. But if I want to know about women from Nicaragua, I'm going to talk to my friend Gila. I want to hear about you. I want to hear about your story. That book told me facts. I didn't learn feelings from a book. I didn't learn feelings from a podcast. I didn't learn feelings I learned it from genuine interaction. You know what I mean? And those moments. And sometimes I wonder, do we do that enough as people? Do we do that enough? I always say, when I look at my daughter's birthday party, do I invite my friends or do I allow her to invite hers? Because when she invites hers, it's beautiful. And I have lots of friends too that are so like me and so very different. But do we look for those moments? We go out of our way to assimilate with people who are similar to ourselves, whether it's through, we go to certain concerts or you go to church with people who share the same faith that you do. But how often do we look for those moments to have an organic experience with people that are different than us? I always say, if I just come to your neighborhood to invite you to Vacation Bible School, I'm doing business. I need to come back to your neighborhood and sit and talk to you. I need to come back and visit. If you invite me to break bread at your house, I need to come eat with you. I need to come do those things. If I'm only coming to see you on some mission to enlighten or to share or to save, we haven't interacted on a natural level. And people see that. We all see that. When I say people, that's all people. We all see that, and moving beyond ourselves. And do we really do that? In this time, yesterday there was the rallies in town, and beautiful. But my goodness, are all these beautiful people that were together, are we going to sit down and talk later? Are we going to bring our kids to play together? Are we going to, if you invited me to, am I going to go? Am I going to come visit your neighborhood just to hang out as moms, not with an agenda? Am I going to do that? Or am I going to wait till we have a rally? Am I going to wait till a crisis has happened? Are we just going to get to know each other? Sometimes I worry we don't respect each other and who we are just for being pure people. Just pure people. You know, I worry about that. I call myself into that sometimes, you know. I do. And when are we going to get to be authentic and real with each other? I always say there are amazing books and podcasts and all of these amazing organizations. I'm a member of a number of organizations, but how I learn about people and how my love for people grows is just by being with people. It's just by being with people and opening yourself up to those conversations. And that's a scary place sometimes, you know, and being willing to have implicit biases you have confronted. My goodness, we all have them. And to allow those things and to allow yourself to be vulnerable. And we got to get brave. We've got to get brave. We've got to get brave.
You said that you did not have the answer, but you have given us plenty right now. And those are strong, strong things to do. Because a community gets stronger by uniting itself, not by dividing. When we learn from books is good, but what I can learn from you, you know, just thinking about a friend of mine who's from Brookfield. She was my first encounter with someone here in town in 1990 when I entered to work in a place. And I always tell this story, but this is the first time that I'm going to share it in this way. Because as you were talking about your friend, and she's a girl that was working with me at this place, and it was a factory. And no one understood my accent, and I didn't understand people because I didn't understand the Southern accent yet.
Mm-hmm.
But she did not speak Spanish. She was always translating for me. She always understood what I said. And people will look at her and say, "What is she saying?" And she would tell them what I had said. It was her attitude towards me, which I think is definitely love, because we immediately connected. That is a friend that I never forget. It was her attitude towards me. She was learning as much of me as I was learning from her. She taught me that grits, you needed to fix them in order to like them. And you're going to find the flavor that you like, she said. Some people put this, some people put that, but you know, you will find, but to this day, is one of my comfort foods, grits, you know? And so thank you for all of that, those messages, because it reminds us that it's in us that we need to do this.
I had a life mentor of mine one time who was someone who, goodness, was a success beyond measure, not financially, not advanced education per se, but just had that beauty of just knowledge and life and wisdom that you don't learn from any book. And they gave me a beautiful piece of advice a very long time ago. I think an issue sometimes that us lovers and fixers run into. He said, if you want to connect with people, if you want to make people feel valued, don't spend your life acting like you're trying to save them. Don't act like you're trying to save them, because then that means there's something wrong with you. That means there's something wrong with how you live, or something wrong with how you believe. There's something wrong with you. If I'm constantly in a mission to save you, it means that somehow you're deficient. It means you're deficient. I see something as deficient. If I only come when it's time to give out free school supplies, if I only come when it's time to invite you to vacation Bible school, if I only come when I think it's this, and somehow I have power in that relationship. It's not equal. I have something that I feel like you need. And that's not how you build a true relationship. That's doing business. That's doing business. And love, and that's not what love is about. Love is about relationships. You have just as much to give me as I have to give you. I have just as much to learn from you as you could ever learn from me. But if my interaction with you is solely, even when I see it as helping, and I've caught myself, I think we've probably all caught ourselves doing that. If I'm only helping, if I'm only coming in to save you, then I have all the power in that relationship. That's business. It's doing business. And if we want to get better, if we want to grow, if we want to love, we got to quit doing business. We got to quit doing business. You know? And it was some of the most profound words I think I've ever heard in my life. And it was so very true. If you're coming in to save me, if you're coming in to save me in some fashion all the time, then you have all the power and I'm at your mercy. And how are we? That's not what that is. You know, I'm at your mercy for what you can give me. And I don't, goodness, we'll always do business and it'll always be pleasant, but we won't grow.
That brings us to the fact that these days we are disconnected because of the pandemic, we are not coming together. I miss the fact that I can actually go and see you. Yes. Right now we would have been already hugged and
yes.
and have a cup of coffee. This is getting this is a little bit distance, but it is physically. Mm-hmm. How would you suggest that today, in these times, how do we become there for one another? I don't know about, I want to mention this because I'm going to be talking to somebody else about this. And it is telling the stories right now that it's what is happening. About COVID-19, your experience, not about just about the illness, but about the feelings, about how we are feeling in this confinement or in this time. And we are encouraging people to write poetry, to sing, and to share it. Do you think that would help us come together?
Oh, I think
something
so.
Like that?
I think so. And I think the sharing of stories without a planned response, you know, I think, what is your story? And whatever that is, if it is, this is my story during COVID-19, this is my story as a Black male, this is my story as a middle-aged white female, this is my story. And you can't tell me it's wrong because it's mine. You can't judge it. It's my feelings without a response. I mean, if we love the way we say we love, if we truly believe the words of Dr. King, as we've seen people sharing, if you are my brother or my sister, and you tell me you are afraid, whether I can intimately understand that or not, because maybe my life is different. Maybe I have privilege that someone else doesn't. But you've looked me in my eyes and said, Amanda, I'm afraid. How do I respond to that? That's going to tell everything. If someone says, I am afraid to be on the streets after dark. I am afraid. I am afraid. Who am I to tell you that you are not? Who am I to tell you? You told me you're afraid. Who? For however those reasons look, you're afraid. And I can try to talk you through rationalizing why you shouldn't be afraid. Or I can sit down and tell you, how do I make you feel safe? And I'm not just going to do that by myself. I'm going to help you know there are people in this community, within groups, within my friends, within my family, within law enforcement, that they will keep you safe. And then I'm going to have to prove that to you. I'm going to have to prove it. I think stories are huge. I always say, it's like when you speak with a child and they're hurting, or someone's hurting and you think maybe they're hurting, you have a friend that's in pain, but when you hear it come out of their mouth and they've opened themselves up to share themselves with you, How do you not respond to that? That's their story. And you can't tell someone their story's wrong. You can't do that. You can't, you know, and that's a beautiful place to start, being heard. Whew. And I think we have to remove emotion. I've always said, you know, when I was an educator talking to parents, sometimes parents will be so upset. I'm a mom. I always say, if you want to see me show out, oh, you mess with Amanda Carden, and I'm going to be, I might just, my goodness. But you remove the emotion. You listen to the words and not the tone. You listen to the message and not the tone. You remove those things that hurt your feelings. You know, this is, we can't censor each other anymore. I can't censor you to make me comfortable. You can't censor me to make you comfortable. We can't censor each other to make the group comfortable. And that doesn't mean that you go out and maliciously hurt. But if you want truth, you have to allow truth. And that is a brave place, because that old adage, truth hurts, indeed it does. But when the truth comes out, my goodness, how we grow. That's what sets us free, you know?
Let me ask you one thing. It's a personal one.
Of course.
How do you start your day?
How do I start my day? On the best of days, if I'm not getting up later than I should, I always start my day in some fashion with gratitude. Just gratitude. Not being thankful, which I am thankful. I can do a list of things I am thankful for, but gratitude. Because I think thankful is a moment. You know, like if you came over and you brought me lunch, well, I would be thankful that you brought me lunch, and I would tell you, oh my gosh, Miss, thank you so much. I love you. But I would be grateful for you. I'm grateful for who you are as a human. You know, so every day in some fashion, I wish I could say it was an organized thing. Sometimes it is just speaking it. Sometimes it is conversation with my little girl when I'm taking her to the sitter. Sometimes it is prayer. But I started with being grateful, whatever that is. And some days it's harder than others. You know, some days it sure is. Some days it's hard. But what am I grateful for? Sometimes it's the breath of life. It is the breath to start a new day. It is the breath of those pieces. But I started with gratitude because, I feel thankful it's just a minute. And I'm thankful for so many things, but that's a moment. What am I grateful for? You know, grateful. And because there's always something. And sometimes it's hard to find, you know. I get the privilege sometimes to counsel with people when they're at some hard moments of their life. And we start with what we're grateful for. And sometimes in those rawest of moments, we're just grateful for our time together. You know, we're just grateful for our time. Because sometimes when you're in those moments, it's hard. It's hard to find it. But sometimes we're just grateful for our moment together. And that's the time. And it's a power. It's that moment. Grateful for the story. You know, sometimes it's looking at somebody and saying, I'm so grateful you shared your story with me, because I would have never known. And for myself, it's gratitude again. And that isn't always reflective. Sometimes I'm in a bad mood like everybody else, you know, and I'm pouting about everything that could be wrong. But when I step back and say, what am I grateful for? Because grateful is not contingent upon my pocketbook. It's not contingent upon the weather. It's not contingent upon politicians. What am I grateful for? That it kind of just frames my day, you know, and I have to be conscious about that.
Well, I am grateful that there are people like you in my life and in our community, because you have held jobs where you get to inspire the most vulnerable, the most amazing, magical creatures, like you said, children. You have been around children, I don't know how long, but it's one of your gifts. And right now you work in the schools, and now you are working at the Carroll County Child Advocacy Center, which tells me that God always has a way of doing things. He has prepared you to this job because you are a forensic interviewer. when children are in the most difficult situations, and I don't like to say difficult, but these are horrendous situations, because no children should be uh, experiencing this. So I am grateful that you're there. Thank you.
Oh, look at it. Oh, because that was professional recorded to make that noise. I'm thankful for you, and you have a lot of love everywhere you go, and just having this Zoom call and letting me share a snippet of my story. You're the model. You're the model for that. You're a safe. I've always my mother has been passed away a long time, but she always said there are those people that are safe. They're safe. It'll make me cry because that's speaking of my late mother. But she always said, if you want to aspire to be anything, aspire to be safe. Aspire to be a safe place that anyone can come in your presence and be exactly who they are, with the strengths, the flaws, all of that. And it was safe. And in that moment, in your presence, they knew that they were good enough, no matter what their shell was like, no matter if they were good enough. And my friend, that is what you are. You are safe. And I don't know that there is a higher compliment that can be given. I don't know anyone that doesn't feel safe to be themselves in the presence of Gila Gonzalez, no matter how good it is, bad it is, filtered or unfiltered, they're safe. And my goodness, think what shape we would be in right now if everybody knew a Gila that they could be safe with, if everybody could identify somebody who was safe. And that's what you are. And I thank you for that.
You are too. You are too. These are the stories that I want to share. So thank you, Amanda, for all the love that you give, and especially for that presence that is always there when you need. So thank you.
Thank you, my friend. I love you.